Welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with Front Row. Of course, we continue with that conversation of taking stock where we are at as a country, 59 years down the line of self-rule, ahead of tomorrow's Madaraka Day celebrations. And of course, a lot has been said, and we've mentioned a lot from the first part of the show. But then going forward, 69 days to the general elections, we need to look inwards as Kenyans. Just now we were talking about the fact that we're seeing governors want to go for Senate and MP positions and the likes. I mean, is that the proper way of doing things as a country, Alex?
Yeah, so it boils down to the resources required to run for political office. And if you've been a governor for 2 terms, the possibility of you having money that can run for any seat apart from the presidency is guaranteed. And the citizen, of course, is very excited when they see something called money. They get very excited, and it has also become a culture where if you have the resources, when you show up in a meeting, chances are that you'll be given a seat at the high table. You try to show up with your wisdom, with nothing, and see what will happen to you in terms of the respect that you get. People will ignore you, and yet probably you have the best wisdom that can offer solutions to their challenges. So that is the major challenge. So yes, I have promised Kenyans that we will be in this for a while. But the fortunate thing is that at some point, I think things will change. We will begin to see or appreciate the fact that we will need to interrogate the people that we put in office, that we need to think through the fact that, and I actually suspect that many Kenyans have not connected the person they vote into office and the services they get. I don't think many Kenyans have not appreciated that fact. And that's why you'll find Kenyans voting in very interesting MCAs. You'll find people voting in very interesting MPs, people who ideally in an organized society who should not be even accorded audience anywhere. And the media as well has played into that. The media has propagated the voices of people that should not be allowed to speak anywhere. But because they are leaders, then we get their opinion as the opinion for the country. So that is where we are learning from. And because of that unfortunate cycle of things, and then we end up with the same challenges that we have. And when people get into office, you do not expect someone to think beyond what they are. They will always produce what they have the capacity to produce. You cannot set up an industry that can produce 10 bags of something and expect it to produce 50. It just doesn't work, because that is not the capacity of that machine. And the human beings are the same way. You vote in people that have no capacity to deliver on anything. Don't expect them to deliver beyond what you expected. And that's why Kenyans will always complain immediately after the elections. People will start making noise about the same leaders they voted yesterday, because that is what they had hoped to get out of the wrong person. And so it has to start from the Kenyans reflecting on what do they want to see their future to be. What do they think about their tomorrow? Do they think about their future? When you pick leaders that have no intention of changing your lives, then please don't expect your lives to change at the same time, because ultimately then the resources that we produce as a country, they end up being misused, because all of us, we have also sung this song about 1/3 of our resources being lost, but we have never sat down to interrogate where these resources go to. So it's a sad affair, but that's what it is.
All right. And just before we continue with the conversation, just a reminder that earlier on, President Uhuru Kenyatta commissioned the Uhuru Gardens National Monument and Museum. Just pictures you'll see shortly as we continue with the conversation. Remember, this is where Kenya first raised the independence flag. There are pictures there from earlier on. There will be a military gallery honoring Kenyan heroes and fighters, a pictorial gallery, locomotive gallery, and others. And you know, just from what Alex has mentioned, as Kenyans and leaders, and even as we continue having this conversation ahead of the elections, how then can Kenyans weed out who is good for us and who is not bad for us?
We must have as many good people run for political office.
Do they want to?
That's where the problem lies, because we get the wrong people, or sometimes good people who then turn to be very bad people running for office. And it's purely because of the nature of our politics. As I said earlier on, it's transactional, so the more money you have, the better the chances for you to hold higher office. If you, for instance, realize that for you to be governor, you need to bribe the voters with 500 shillings as opposed to the 50 bob that MCAs and these other positions give them, then you want to get as much amount of money to your corner as opposed to the other offices.
Okay.
So we do not have as many good people running for office. We fail to prepare. In fact, I don't think Kenyans have prepared our politicians who then turn to be our leaders. And if I am wrong, then I stand to be corrected. But show me, for instance, even as President Uhuru Kenyatta is leaving office, who has he mentored, you know, in what capacity? President Moi, may God rest his soul in peace, who did President Moi mentor despite the 24 years of whatever experiences Kenyans went through? But can somebody, any man or any woman stand and say, I was mentored by President Moi, and these are the ideals that he stood for and I want to run them over?
Yeah.
Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, President Mwai Kibaki, again, may God rest his soul in peace. But what I'm saying is that we do not focus largely on political leadership as a solution to the problems that Kenya is still facing. And that is why 59 years down the line, we still have very bad indicators. Yes, of course, we are making efforts, but if you compare these efforts that we are making to other countries or other neighbors that we have close by, you really cannot think about the kind of rankings that Kenya has against the other leaders and the kind of progress that we are putting, which is why we are saying we make 2 steps forward and very many 20 plus backwards, because a lot of it actually starts and ends with leadership. So even as we head towards the elections, we have to begin to ask ourselves, who is this person that is running for office? What have they done? What have they said that they are going to do? And how will we safeguard what they have said that they are going to do? So the voices of the citizens, insofar as holding the leadership to account, have we put in place the right mechanisms to be able to ask those difficult questions? Like, for example, you have been a governor, and when you're running for office the last time, you told us that you're going to ensure that every household has water.
Okay.
This is 5 years down the line, and we are still seeing donkeys, you know, ferrying water from one household to the other. We are still struggling with buying water jerrycans at 28 shillings per jerrycan. Is that the kind of the next 5 years that this particular individual wants to really see? Controller of Budget Auditor General has told us that monies have been lost in some of these countries, but in some of these counties. But if you look at the people who are coming out to be elected, they're the same people we are saying that have stolen our money. So the power of the citizen to ask those very difficult questions is never there. But again, nobody wants to risk the opportunity to ask those difficult questions for fear of many things. You could be killed. We have seen people losing their lives for political purposes and reasons. You could be targeted. Your children could be kidnapped. Anything can happen. So people are also scared, and we fail to make those sacrifices that therefore the founding fathers made at that point in time, 59 years down the line. Now, the second reason for me is basically the choices then that are presented. We have people making a lot of noise, actually, even from trade unions, the private sector, you know, even, of course, the media has done well because we have very many of your colleagues who are now running for office. But we have some of them who have run for office, who have done very good stories like exposing corruption. But if you look at the stories that follow them, even when they're elected into office, then you ask yourself,
what happened?
Where did then things go wrong? So I think mentorship will play a very important role, and maybe Kenya School of Government or institutions that we can purely focus on not teaching people political science 101. You know, that Kenya gained its independence in 1963.
More practical and less theory.
June 1st, it gained its self-rule. It has to be more practical, and maybe consider benchmarking We have mentioned Japan here, we have mentioned Singapore. Why not ferry some of them, like the brain drain mechanism that used to happen during Tom Mboya's days, where a group of young Kenyans would be taken to the US and put in some universities there and trained for some years. And then today, they're the people who are actually leading some big companies around here.
Okay.
Some of them, like, not to mention some names, have been appointed into government. And we have seen some progress in terms of the experience that they shared and how impactful that can be within the country.
All right.
So we have lessons to learn from certain places.
And I hope they're listening to you and they will implement, these solutions that you're giving. But even as we wind up, Alex, when we talk about continuity and after every term, for example, right now the Jubilee administration is ending its tenure, but then we're hearing talks of legacy. And the next administration will come and they'll come with a new crop of investments and ideas and infrastructure development projects, different things. How then can we ensure that as a country we sort of have one roadmap and follow that, whether there's going to be a change in government or a change in whoever, it's going to be the same down the road?
So the unfortunate bit is that will take a while to take root in our country because of first of all, our democracy, maturity of our democracy is still very far from where it should be.
Okay.
We have not yet adopted the ideological approach to the running of the affairs of politics. And so what that means is that if you asked any Kenyan today which side of the political divide stands for what, they won't be able to tell you. Apart from the things that are being pronounced about the things that the politicians are saying they will do.
Yeah, briefly.
They will not be able to tell you because it's not clear. Like it's not about the left or the right. It's not about Democrats or Republicans.
Yeah.
You can't place where our leaders belong. Apart from the few things that you can see they disagree on, most of the time it's actually confusing. Sometimes they talk about the same thing in a different way. Mm-hmm. So we need to get to a point where first to offer some solutions, first to strengthen our political party system, such that then we know that, for example, we have certain political parties that stand for certain things.
Yeah.
So that then when they get into office, that's what they pursue to make the country have.
Okay.
Secondly, I think there are certain things that then we will need to think about.
In 30
and
seconds.
That is the type of leadership that we want to elect into office.
Okay.
If we think about persons with high integrity, then we can expect much from that leadership. But unless that is the case, then we may still be talking about this for quite some time. Okay,
so a lot of things that need to be worked on, but of course Kenya is a work in progress as a country, so we hope for the best. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. Alex Manyasi, a governance and policy expert, and next to me we have Kevin Osido, who is a governance expert and equally the executive director, County Governance Watch. And I am Ashley Mazuri. Thank you very much for being part of Front Row. Enjoy the rest of your holiday.